There's something I want to walk you through tonight, slowly, carefully, because it's one of the most misunderstood dynamics in male-female attraction. It's not about looks. It's not about money. It's about something deeper, something women often won't say out loud, but they always feel. And that's status. Not just social status, but the kind of status that is communicated through your behavior, your silence, your energy, your presence. The kind of status that she subconsciously reads before you even speak. Now here's what most men don't know. Women are always testing your status level. Not directly, not explicitly. It's subtle. It's hidden in the way they speak to you, the way they challenge you, the way they gauge your reactions. These are what I call status tests. But here's the kicker. What appears to be an innocent test of interest, or just a little tease, is actually her way of verifying if your status is real or an illusion. And if you fail, she loses respect. When a woman first meets you, she places you somewhere in her mind. Maybe a 7 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10. Your looks, your voice, the way you carry yourself, everything contributes to this initial rating. But what you do next, your behavior, your words, your neediness or detachment, can either elevate you or completely destroy her perception of you. The harsh truth, you can start out as a 10 in her eyes and fall to a 0 in a single conversation. Not because your car changed, not because your job changed, but because you spoke too much. You opened your mouth, and your words revealed everything she needed to know. Attraction lives in mystery, but most men kill that mystery by trying to explain themselves, justify themselves, or prove themselves. They talk their way into the friend zone. They text too much. They respond too quickly. They chase validation. And in doing so, they fail every one of her subtle tests. Let me be clear. When you respond to every message, when you overshare, when you show too much interest too early, you lower your perceived value. She begins to wonder, if this guy is really high status, why is he acting like he's chasing me? A man of value doesn't chase. A man of value draws. And the only way to maintain that value is through emotional restraint. That means you stay above the conversation, not inside it. Most men go wrong right here. A woman sends a long text about her day, something random, something mundane, and the average guy replies with excitement, engagement, eagerness. He goes into the conversation. He plays along. He tries to connect. But the high-value man doesn't do this. The high-value man stays centered. He doesn't react emotionally. He might respond briefly, or he might not respond at all. Why? Because he knows that too much communication kills polarity. When you make yourself too easy to access, your presence loses weight. When you speak too freely, your mystery evaporates. And when your mystery evaporates, her attraction dies. Attraction is built in the unknown. It's maintained through space, through silence, through the unspoken energy that says, I don't need to impress you. That's the signal she's looking for, the signal that separates the men who pretend to have status from the men who actually live it. But here's where it gets deeper. Her interest tests are not random. They are her way of confirming something primal, whether or not you have options. If a woman suspects that you could easily attract other women at or above her level, your value skyrockets. She begins to respect you. She begins to chase you. And she begins to obsess over you. But if she senses that she's the center of your emotional world, if she feels that you're too available, too eager, too reactive, she begins to pull away. Why? Because she knows you've got no other options. And that makes you low status. Even if you're tall, fit, successful, none of it matters if you fail the subtle emotional tests that tell her what kind of man you truly are. This is why discipline is everything. Not the kind of discipline that just wakes you up at 6 a.m. I'm talking about the emotional discipline to not react, to not overshare, to not seek validation through her attention. The kind of discipline that says, I'm focused on me. I don't need to be validated by your reply. Most men lose women not because they're bad people, but because they can't control themselves. They talk too much, they text too much, they chase, and every time they do, they show weakness. Because if you really had high value, you wouldn't need to explain yourself. You wouldn't need to be heard. You'd be too focused on your mission. That's the core of real status. It's not your car. It's not your suit. It's the energy of a man who lives for something bigger than a woman's attention. A man who is unavailable not because he's playing games, but because he's truly occupied. And this is something women can feel. A man who's building something, improving himself, chasing his potential. He's naturally less accessible, and that makes his attention rare. And anything rare is valuable. But the guy who's always around, always available, always texting back within seconds, he becomes common. And common is boring. So if you want to pass your status tests, you must become the man who can't be replaced. And the only way to do that is by focusing more on your growth than on her. Most guys make the mistake of filling their time with distractions, hanging out, drinking, watching sports, and they use this to appear busy. But eventually the facade falls apart. Because being busy isn't the point. Being driven is. The man who fills his day with purpose, building his body, his business, his mind, this man doesn't need to pretend. He doesn't need to fake scarcity. He's genuinely immersed in becoming something powerful. And that power is what women crave. That sense of forward motion, of ambition, of inner fire. That's what sets you apart from every other man she's met. And here's the secret. The more focused you are on yourself, the harder it becomes for her to forget you. Why? Because you're rare. And every time she sees you, every time she hears from you, it means something. It's not noise. It's signal. It's impact. That's how obsession starts. Not through words, not through constant attention, but through space, silence, and the energy of a man who respects himself so deeply, he doesn't give his attention cheaply. If you've ever been ghosted, left on read, dumped out of nowhere, chances are you failed these tests. Not intentionally, but because no one ever taught you how to hold your frame. So now you know. Her interest tests are her way of asking, are you really who you say you are? And every time you over-communicate, you give her the answer she didn't want. You show her that you're not the man she thought you were. But when you say less, when you hold steady, when you lead with action, not words, you stay above it all. And the higher you float, the more she's drawn to you. That's the game. And it's a game of silence, not noise. So be the man who doesn't rush to reply. Be the man who's hard to access. Be the man who's not afraid to walk away. Because once she sees that she can't control you with her tests, she starts to trust your strength. And that strength becomes your leverage. That's how you become the man she can't stop thinking about. That's how you pass every test without even trying. And that's how you stay in control of the frame forever. Like, comment, and subscribe if this helped you see the game in a new way.